Hi, it's Kay Johnson, and we're at Off the Shelf, Book Talk with Book Lovers today. And what's new, Betsy? What are you reading?
Well, I read, so I've been trying to read a couple of nonfiction, and the one I finished was called Stolen Innocence, and it's by Elisa Wall. And her father was one of the higher-ups in Warren Jeff's FLDS.
Oh.
So her book is all about her growing up in Warren Jeff's FLDS church, as well as being one of the underage brides. And it's everything.
Didn't he just buy property up by Lutzen, up by Grand Marais?
Warren Jeff's? He's in
acres?
prison. I don't think he can buy anything.
I thought his gang did.
Oh, they might have. I don't know. I didn't hear about that. But this follows her growing up and everything through her testifying at his trial and everything that came about it that way. And I actually listened to the audiobook.
Oh.
And the lady that was reading it, if she did an amazing job at this audiobook. It was like I was on the verge of tears when she was talking about things and this lifestyle growing up, and it was just like I had to stop listening to the audiobook because I was getting so it made my chest hurt. You wanted to reach into the phone and hug this girl. And I think that's one of those things where it's just cults are a big draw for people. Reading about cults, reading survivor stories. There's actually a whole podcast you can listen to called Cults, put out by the Parcast, and every 2 weeks they chronicle a different cult leader and then the downfall or the people in the cult. And they did one on Warren Jeffs too, but I think the FLDS, just because of how they dress, the prairie hairstyle, all of that, people are so interested in it, and because it's twisted. I know not you, but I'm saying there's a really big interest in these different cult aspects. And so it's horrifying to listen to, but it is something that's really important to read about and understand, I think. I don't know why I feel that way. You're giving me that look like, Betsy, you're nuts, which I'm used to.
No, I think it's fine. It's just not a topic I would ever read.
No, and I read, I don't remember the title of it, but Warren Jeff's daughter released a book. And I read her book too. I think I might have talked about it on a previous episode. And not a nice guy, really kind of a twisted thing. But the book just kind of breaks your heart.
I believe it.
But it's one of those that I've read it and I'm more knowledgeable about it. But
see, while you're reading intelligent stuff like that, I'm reading Carl Hiaasen.
Well, and I balance it out, though. My other one I read recently was called Good Morning, Good Night, Little Pep Talks for Me and You, and it's the book by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Okay.
So he does daily tweets. He does one in the morning and one at night saying
Was he starring in Hamilton?
He is the original writer.
Oh,
he wrote
Hamilton,
okay. And he also did In the Heights, which is another musical. So he tweets every day. He does an inspirational morning tweet and a good night tweet. And so he put together a compilation of these these just kind of little pep talks into a book. And it's just kind of a real quick light read. If you wanted to, you could read one in the morning and one at night. But if you follow him on Twitter, most of them you'll see every day. But it was just kind of nice. And then he had a person he worked with who was an artist, and he did little drawings in the book too. So just kind of a nice little upbeat thing to read through quick.
Is it a big book or a little book?
It's about the size of my Kindle.
Okay.
And it's about not even an inch thick.
Is it a year's worth or?
No, it's 100 some pages.
Okay.
It's pretty skinny, but it's just real quick thoughts, and it was kind of a fun little thing to pick up. And I had to laugh because I'd posted a picture when I was reading it, and I get a text message from Tom. You bought the Lin-Manuel Miranda book and you didn't tell me? And I said, well, we're at the point where I'm afraid to tell you when I buy books. Because
he has a hostile response.
Well, no, it's just usually you bought another book, and it's then I want to look at it and be like, you bought another Magic card? You bought another? It's no. It's to each his own. But it's just one of those things. You have those stacks upstairs, and you got another book. But yeah, and I really liked that one. Anything else you've read recently that you want to?
I'm actually reading a book called Murder at Melrose Court. And it's, I like 1920s style murder mysteries. English murder mysteries that take place at the estate, the weekend.
Yeah.
This one takes place over Christmas, and there's a blizzard. And this fellow, the book starts out with this fellow finds a body on his front steps. And he has no idea who the guy is, but they call the police, and he gets taken care of, and Lennox ends up packing up, and he's going to his uncle's for Christmas. And he gets there, and his uncle announces his engagement, and the woman he's engaged to actually bought a necklace from Lennox and then gave him a check that bounced. And so Lennox is sitting there trying, does he tell his uncle about this woman? And of course, she ends up dead, and he ends up with a gun in his hand.
Oh, gosh.
And of course, they all think he did it, and of course, he didn't do it. And he admits that really all he's ever done is hunted and fished and stuff, and because they've always had money, and he's now broke because he doesn't have any money because his other relatives spent it all, and so he's got to find some type of gainful employment. So I guess he might become a detective, which might be a stretch, but he's reading Sherlock Holmes to see how Sherlock Holmes does things. So now they found another body. So now there's 3 bodies around poor Lennox. So we'll see what happens. So it's kind of good. It's the first thing she's written, the only book she's written. So it's kind of good. I'm interested to see who did it. I think it's a cousin, but I'm not sure.
Okay. It's kind of fun when you don't know who did it, as opposed to figuring out within like 4 pages and then trying to make yourself read the rest of the book to make sure.
Well, that happens too. With the John Sandford books, he usually tells you in the first chapter who did it.
And then it's how
the two come together.
Yeah.
And stuff. But this one, Lennox is on his own, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say a book I did, but finish up your John Sandford.
I was just going to say that Lennox was a pilot during World War I.
Well, he did something besides fishing and hunting then.
Well, he shot people. He shot Germans is what he said. So there's not a lot of gainful employment there. So I sort of like Lennox, but we'll see. But now, go ahead. What are you?
No, I was just going to say, on that line with the kind of the war piece, and I found a website, which is going to get me into a lot of trouble, but it's free books, so I'm not going to complain. It's called NetGalley, and you're able to sign up and request ARCs, which are advanced reader copies. You can get them digital usually. Advanced reader copies of books that are due to be published.
Okay.
So you can request to read these books, and then the publisher okays you, and then you get the copy, and then they just ask that you review them on the website, give feedback on your thoughts on the book. And then there's a spot too where you can put, if you'd have like a blog or a website, you can list where you're reviewing the book for others to see it, or if you put it on Amazon or something and just let them know. So the one I'm currently reading that I got from NetGalley is called The Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn in World War II. And this is by Robert Mattinson, and it's due to be released, or it came out on April 15th of this year. So this follows when she's done interviews, or when she did, because she died. She never talked about World War II or her time growing up. And so this author it's a biography, and so he's gone back and done a lot of research actually in Holland, where she was during World War II, to do more research about what her family did, who she was, because they would ask her and she would just kind of clam up about her personal family life. So I'm only about halfway done with it right now, but it's been really interesting. I don't know a whole lot about Audrey Hepburn, except, that she's in Charades and Breakfast at Tiffany's and My Fair Lady and all of those great movies. So it's kind of interesting to read about her life in a different way. So, but like I said, this website's probably going to get me in trouble. I need to like, because you can sit there and go through the titles and read and just request, to read and review these. And it's like, well, if I request to read 10 and then they give me 10, then I have to read 10, but I also have all these other books I should read. So it's just kind of finding that balance with
NetGalley.com?
NetGalley.com. Yep. So that was really fun. And then the other website that's going to get me in trouble is going to be thriftbooks.com. So thriftbooks.com is sort of your used bookstore online.
Okay.
So you can type in a name of a book, and then it'll give you, they have warehouses kind of all over the country, and then you can pick what kind of condition you want the book to be in based on the price you want. So if you want a brand new book, that's going to cost you more than like if you want a book that's in good quality. So most of the books, they have like $3.79 sale books.
That's a great
so it's
price.
like it's like $3 for a book that I'm not 100% sure I'm ever going to read again, and it might not be in the best shape. I can just donate it when I'm done. Great. And then they also have a rewards program. So for every dollar you spend, you get a point, and when you get 500 points, you get to order a free book.
Oh wow! So bonus bucks.
Yes. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I need to be policed. I should not put this app on my phone. But it worked really well because there was actually we were at a workshop for when we did a theater competition, and she was talking about a book, and we couldn't find it anywhere on Amazon, and just because I had time, I pulled the app up, and there was one copy of the book on Thrift Books, and I could get it for like $8. So I can read it. I did. Of course I did. So I can read it and pass it on, and they come really quickly. The only kind of downside is like if you order 4 books, you might get 4 packages.
Oh, sure, because
they'll come from all different places.
Warehouses.
But most of them have been in pretty good shape. Like I've usually just asked for good or very good. There was only one book I think I ordered from there that was brand new, and I ordered it brand new because I have the other books that match this one, and I wanted them all to look the same because that's kind of how I am with series. If you get them, you want them all to look like they go together.
Neat and tidy.
So they match on the shelf. It's amazing how people, like there are people that will collect, like they have all of the fellow Lord of the Rings series and all the different kinds.
Oh, okay.
Like people collect the series with all the different covers.
All the versions.
Yes.
There's a lot of them though. And especially if they bring out the movie and the TV version or whatever it is.
Yeah. So I mean, people collect all this stuff. There are some people that collect the classics for like Barnes and Noble. Like Barnes and Noble has those special release covers. They collect those. It's amazing. I mean, with the book groups I am in on Facebook, it is amazing. I always feel like I'm looking at books all the time, but I have nothing compared to some of these people. Like they have rooms and piles of books. They're constantly going to book sales, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to live in your house.
Oh yeah.
The other book I read real recently, I read one called Girl Stop Apologizing, and this is by Rachel Hollis.
That's like on the bestseller list.
Not super impressed. I've really enjoyed all of her other books. I really liked Girl Wash Your Face. This one, to me, I don't know if it's just that maybe I don't have as many high and aspiring goals as people the book was maybe written for, but I kind of felt like she was pointing out like, oh, I did this. Like she said like in 5 different chapters that she was a New York bestselling author. Like that was her goal. And it was like, I was like, I think 3 pages ago, we just talked about this.
So it got redundant.
So it kind of felt like she was it was kind of all focused on what she's achieved. And like she's constantly talking about what she's doing while she's reading the book. And I was just kind of like, it's supposed to be more of a self-help type book. And I feel like more you're talking about what you've done to get to this point, which you sort of talked about in the last book. So I kind of feel like I'm reading the same book over again. So I mean, there have been lots of people that have been loving it. And so, like I said, maybe I just don't fit into the niche she was writing the book for. I mean, I am a church secretary and a full-time stay-at-home mom. I'm pretty comfy with my life, and I like what I get to do. I'm not looking to start a Fortune 500 company in the next 3 weeks. And she'll say things like, you should get up an hour before your kids. And I'm like, well, that's great. But if your son is getting you up at 5:15 because he's figured out how to get out of a toddler bed, I'm not getting up at 4:15 to work out for an hour before he gets up. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. I'm going to lay in bed till he comes and gets me and says, Mama, it's time to get up.
I'm with you, Betsy.
So, and I mean, but I think that's one of the things with a lot of, like, there's so many self-help book, it feels like, that are being released, and it feels like they're constantly churning out. And so it's just kind of like reminding yourself that you can read it, you can take what you need out of them, but you don't have to, like, so not all of them are going to be for everybody.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But there's a lot of them. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Well, like this one's Emily Lay's A Simplified Life. This is more of it says tactical tools for intentional living, but this is more like a guide of like how to go through and clean out stuff, or how to streamline different like daily things, like your daily routine, or like going through and clearing out your house and that kind of stuff. And I had friends that raved about this, and it's really great for like getting inspired, and there are great ways that you can put stuff in. So like this, I think, was more my speed than Girl Stop Apologizing. Too many girls in this. So, but yeah, so I mean, I think that's kind of what I'm realizing with reading a bunch of these different things is they're not everybody is going to like the same self-help book.
Well, and that's true. Mm-hmm. And not everyone should feel bad if they don't want to be. What's the gal from Japan who does the organizing?
Marie Kondo.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, there was a big uproar in book things for her too, because in her Netflix series she said something like you should never have more than 30 books.
Oh yeah.
And people were like, you don't need that negativity in your life. People are like, that's per room, right? Or like per bookshelf.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading that on Facebook and people going nuts over it.
Oh, it's just, you can't take books away from bookworms, man.
No.
People who love books, don't touch their books.
Well, that's true. But I get where she's coming from too, because her idea is that you read a book and you pass the book on. Mm-hmm. And you only, why would you have more than 30 books you haven't read?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I have at least that many I've kept to reread.
Well, yeah, that's my main thing is going, like, I'm going to need to go through my bookshelves and probably cull a few, but I find more that I buy what I know I'm going to want to read again. Like, I'm trying to be much more about using the library and online books and that kind of piece, just because it does take up less space.
Oh, it does, yeah.
But yeah, like we've said before, this full series are just, they're your friends, and it's kind of nice to have that series there, because then you can kind of look at them, and for me, they're kind of memory triggering, because you can look at the book and remember what you were doing when you read it.
Nothing. I was just reading.
Well, you know what I mean. What was going on in your life while you had this book with you wherever you went? Especially for me, because mine go from my purse to my car to people's houses on vacation, upstairs in my house. I mean, you take books everywhere with you.
Well, I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah.
If you have too many books, the Hutchinson Public Library has a Friends of the Library used book sale coming up. I believe it's next Saturday, the 14th.
Yeah.
And they've got great deals. I think paperbacks are 25 cents and hardcovers are maybe 50.
Yeah.
And you can get 10 for so much. And it's down in the room, the meeting room.
Yeah.
But it's a good opportunity if you need books. It's a cheap way to buy them, and if you need to get rid of books, it's a great way to help the library.
Well, and there are constantly like people online are switching books around. I'll see somebody in the book will say, "I'm looking for a copy of The English Patient, and I'm willing to switch this book, and this book," and then people just switch. They pay shipping, and they'll swap books.
Oh wow!
I think there's a website actually called Bookswap.com.
Oh, okay.
Where you can go on and swap books for people. I will check on that for next time's episode to make sure. But people love their books. And it's really interesting, especially if you go on like Etsy and those more creative sites, what people are making for books. Like people are making book sleeves so that instead of just putting your book in your purse where it's going to get torn up, you can put it in a nice little jacket so that it stays in one piece in your book. Or people make bookmarks and sell them. I mean, all kinds. And people, and then you get people who are very specific about the type of bookmark they want. They want the magnetic one or the non-magnetic one. Or if you're just going to use a receipt like me.
Who knew? Or you can be really guilty and bend a page.
Ooh, now you're asking for people to give input.
Oh, yeah, that's trouble because people really don't like it when you bend a page.
And then there are people that want to stir the pot and they're like, what's better, ebooks or real books? Or they're like, do you count audiobooks as reading a book? And you're like, oh, man, we just went through this.
Well, I have to say that I don't do many audiobooks. Very few. And
it's been within the last year or so that I've really picked up on using the audiobooks more, mostly because when I'm at work, I can play it in the background or while I'm cooking or in the car, because I feel I can listen to the audiobook and still chase after Alex, whereas if I sit there with the book, he'll come up and be like, Mommy, no book, or Mommy, no read. I read. And he'll take it, or he'll pull the bookmarks out of all my books, and then I don't know what page I was on, which is always fun. And I think it's kind of interesting too, because he's sort of becoming more comfortable with like sitting and looking at books on his own. He loves books.
Yay.
Yes, I'm doing something right.
Yes, that's right.
And we've started more kind of going into the library with him, and so it's just really kind of fun to see the next generation of reader.
Yeah, well, it's
growing up. So
it's really to me a wonderful hobby because you're never alone if you have a book. You never have to worry about, some people say they're lonely or they don't want to be alone, and who's alone when you've got Harry Potter and all his friends with you?
Yeah, definitely. And I've actually been making a new set of book friends, which I'm kind of sad about because I'm listening to the last book in the series. I finished the third book, which was called Cress. It's a series by Marissa Martin. It's the Lunar Chronicles. I've talked about these in the past. This has the cyborg Cinderella.
Oh, yes.
And all the twisted fairy tales. So I'm in the fourth one. And so each of the ones has been modeled after like a different fairy tale and then loosely follows it. So I'm in the final book, and it's been interesting because I've listened to all of the audiobooks, and so going up, it's been like, their first one was like 8 hours, and the next one was 9, and we had 10. Fourth book is 24 and a half hours long. And I keep thinking I'm almost done with it. I looked today and I was like, I have 10 hours left.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, what is going to happen in 10 hours?
Like, I would grow old and die.
It's been a real roller coaster. I'm like, we got to be getting to the point where it's going to wrap up. And then I look and I'm like, no, I have 10 hours left. And so it's really interesting because I want to like go and find the book and see how big the actual like book itself is compared to the other ones. Because I don't remember them being super thick, but if it's 24 hours of reading, it's got to be a big book.
I'm thinking it's got to be a huge book.
Which is really funny because I'd been listening to like the C.S. Lewis, and all of his Chronicles of Narnia books are 4 hours. 4 or 5 hours exactly. Nothing longer. And it's the same with like Animal Farm was super short. And so it's one of those things where it's like 24 hours. I'm just glad that the person reading it knows what they're doing. And it's really enjoyable, but it's amazing that somebody can just sit there and talk for that long. If you think about it, the people that are recording these voiceovers, they're in this little booth by themselves reading the book. And it's like
out loud.
And it's like, if 24 hours is what the final product was, how much time did this lady actually spend in the booth recording this book?
Years. Who knows?
But I'd never really listened to a lot of audiobooks before, and I'm really finding that I do enjoy them as long as you have the right voice reading it.
Do you get yours from the library?
Yes. Yep, because I don't feel the need to purchase like an audiobook because I kind of feel like I'm going to listen to it and then I'm probably not going to listen to it again because I have a huge to be read book list. I don't really have time to go back and reread books right now.
Or re-listen to books. So if it's usually I'll do an audiobook if I'm not 100% sure
I want to devote the time to just like sitting and listening to it or sitting and reading it. But I figure if I'm listening to it and I'm doing something else at the same time, then I can give my time for it. But I know audiobooks aren't for everybody. But there are a lot of people that I know. My great uncle, when he was painting houses, he listened to all kinds of audiobooks. I can remember him. I mean, he came to watch my sister at a swim meet, and I can remember he had his headset on with his portable CD player. I'm going to date myself here. As he was listening to books on CD. So, I mean, I think they're fun, and I enjoy them. If you have a thought on audiobooks versus real books, give us a shout out on Facebook or Instagram, or send us an email at offthe-shelf-booktalk@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.